Well, conference report, we have some of the same misgivings about all of this. And I mean, one solution is that things don't have to tie up quite the way they're supposed to in a world that's supposed to be derived from a bunch of logical axioms and tautologies. Okay, so that's one thing. We have a more pragmatic set of requirements. You know, philosophy is about living and how to live, and we're simply trying to get a good result from that. And enlightenment is this thing where we realize that our results are linked to everybody getting a good result, something along those lines. But in terms of the phenomenon noumena, the issue here, I think, is that we have another model. We have an information processing model. Okay, because you're saying, for example, you're begging the question. I think, in a legitimate sense, when you say, what is it? Is it just its bundle, or is it, okay, forget about the it. The only thing that could be called it is the model we have of this thing that we're assuming when we talk. Okay. Now, my model is that we get a bundle of perceptions. You know, is it an it? Okay. Well, if you're talking about what's on the other side generating those perceptions, we never get to the itness of that. It looks like a bundle of properties. You know, not light and not our sense properties, not those traditional classical properties, but material properties, like a bunch of atoms. You know, and so its boundaries are blurry. Those properties don't even adhere into a thing. It properly is a system, which we can modernize our idea of thing to be systems, but of course there's this historical part of thing that that invokes an atomism, at least of scale, not a literal atomism. Okay, so that it has an identity. So there's not really the thing, and is it one of these two things? There is a set of appearances. Okay, we build a model of the thing. You know, I build a model of this. This is really just a bunch of millions and billions of properties like electromagnetism. There's electrons, you know, circling around in the metal part, and less so in the rest of it. And you know, it's filled with the flammable gasoline. There could be molecules in there trying to ignite just on the edge, but they're not of a critical mass. And I don't actually know if gasoline does that, but you know, these are the kinds of things that on the single molecule level can be happening that the overall properties don't necessarily reflect. That our sense perceptions of properties don't reflect. And so it's this complicated system where that if we do look at the littlest teeny tiniest bits we've ever noticed, they're actually indeterminate. So the thingness of this in the real world is severely endowed. Certainly the notion of thing that we projected on ourselves from antiquity. Okay, so the thing involved is my model. Okay, that's the it. When I say it the lighter, I'm talking about this holodeck virtual reality representation. That's the thing. I have made a thing. So that thing is not actually whatever's in the external world. It's my model that I have matched, that I have placed inside these bundle of properties. Okay. Now, how similar that is to the external reality, well, that's interesting. I think there's some truth to that point that, you know, it's not just luck if our models resemble how things really are. But with the counterintuitive nature of science for the last couple hundred years and the way that it has overcome and overturned our assumptions, you know, that matter was matter and energy is energy, and we find out, wait, all matter is energy. Okay, so our notion that our model matches reality in some sort of essential way, describing how it is material, how it is in itself, we've pretty much shown that that does not appear to be the case. Okay, and again, we're using these practical criteria. So we're not going to have to say we've proven it's not to be the case, but we know that pretty much every model that we put up is fundamentally different. You know, just the identifiability. You know, the art that says he's not dancing with a bunch of blobs of color, it's a woman. You know, we know that our models have not really matched the things we found out in terms of material properties. Okay, so we are talking about the things in our own virtual reality, and what matches is the behavior our model predicts. And it's like Ptolemy's model of how the planets moved on epicycles. It matched as well. Okay, it matched as well. Um, so the behavior, but we say that's not wasn't really correct. Why is that? I mean, the really only discriminatory factor, well, there's two, I would say, two categories I can think of. One, there's certain things it doesn't predict, like the motion of other stars and things like this. Okay, but more importantly, I think more here and now, because of the history of the matter, is that it's more complicated than you need. Okay. Now, complication on one hand, in terms of difficulty, that could be a judgment call. But complex versus simple in terms of the number of parts to which something can be reduced. It's like if you had a system that was like Cartesian coordinates, but it had a fourth vector sticking out there. You can describe things in terms of that, but you don't need that fourth vector. The mathematical proofs show that in a three-dimensional space, you need three orthogonal vectors. Boom. You can have a coordinate system. Also shown it's simpler if they are orthogonal as opposed to just three that aren't coplanar. All right. So in my system, we never get back to the thing in itself, the external it. We just have a bundle of perceptions and a model, and the model is what we're really dealing with. All this time we think we're dealing with the thing. No, we're dealing with our model of a bunch of perceptions. And we have to realize that transform through those perceptions really is the real possibility that it's a simulation or a dream. Now, I don't tend to believe those because the consistency of simulations and dreams isn't really up to snuff. But there's still something like that. I mean, it's a shimmering group of plasmas and pools and magnetic fields. I mean, it's pretty bizarre. It's surreal as any dream or simulation. Actually, even more so. Okay, so I don't feel I have to posit that thing in itself to realize that I identify these properties in this way because of its use to me. And other people identify the properties of the materials used to make the lighter and put them together and assemble them in a way because it's a use to me and them, to us in general. And that's good enough for me. Now, in terms of the existence, this is a weird thing. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it too, but I believe that it's not a matter of solipsism. We're not facing solipsism. We're facing some strangeness. We're facing me proposing something that I can't claim to have gotten intuitive. But it's not solipsism because if you truly don't ever interact with the sun, I'm going to say interact, right? Because it doesn't matter if you look at the sun. If photons from it hit you, you are connected, okay, in time-space. But it's not a matter of saying it doesn't exist. There's still somebody on the moon, let's say, and for them it exists. And you're the thing that doesn't exist. Now that's the part that seems counterintuitive, but Einstein, I mean, there's a bias that leads in this direction from science, which is saying that if you can't verify or disprove something, then, don't even bother thinking about it. But it goes further than this because of quantum mechanics. It's like if two things really are so separated, they're not sharing any photons, any physical interactions, and never will, then they really are separate. And it's a multiplicitous kind of solipsism. You could, if you were truly isolated off from everything else, you really would be living in your own solipsistic universe. That's what it's saying. If you were truly cut off. But note, it's not you seeing the moon. That's not enough. Truly cut off means no interactions. Okay, it means no photons. And consider, I mean, on a planet 1,000 light years away, a beam of its sunlight hits it, and it absorbs it, okay? And then it radiates that heat, and it shoots towards Earth, and by some luck it travels through all of the things that might absorb it, and it flies down one night, and it hits a molecule of mine, and I'm warmed, okay? And that took thousands and thousands of years, right? We're connected. We exist for each other. Okay, we exist for each other exactly as much as it takes to translate that event. And the more events we have, the more we exist for each other. Now on the Earth, we're sharing oxygen molecules. There's vibration.